this button and that button.
That button? Did you hit all the buttons, including this one?
Not yet.
The microphone?
Yes.
Okay. But you're going to leave my buttons alone, right?
No.
No? Well, one can always hope. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. I am so glad to be back here. I'm so glad to be back here. It's been a rough week. Week and a bit. Been a rough week, and I'm glad I'm back. I get to sit behind my painting table, and I get to paint with you guys, and that just sort of makes my week, because it's been a sucky week. Sorry.
That's the best way we can put it.
That's the best way I can put it, yes. It's been a sucky week, but I get to play and paint with you guys today, and I'm happy about that. We have some fabulous giveaways for today. That was a puppy dog.
No, it was a puppy dog.
Yeah. We have fabulous giveaways for today. We have a 3-brush set of Dynasty Water Lily brushes to give away. We've got some fun little doodads. Some of my favorite tools are in there. You also get a nifty stencil. We've got a fun little stencil for you. Well, little one, but we also have a big one. And a bunch of other goodies in there from both Renee and I. We have a fun new button for you too. It is called Keep Calm and Paint. And the I Arted, we're going to be sending out some of these. These are the I Arted stickers. We get a bunch of those in. We also have the buttons and the pins. And I just had a whole bunch of fun since I wasn't doing a whole lot. So, you know, I got to sit on my computer or on my laptop and order fun stuff for you guys. So
you made swag.
I made swag. If I couldn't paint something, I was making swag. So we got all kinds of fun things for you guys. So we have 3 of those giveaways for today. So in order to get your name on the wheel, all you have to do is join us in the chat, say hello, good morning, ask a question, whatever you'd like to do. Don't forget to hit that like button and the share button. We would greatly appreciate that. We'll put your name on the wheel, and at the end of today's live, we'll spin it, and we'll select 3 winners for those little goodie pouches. So that's going to be a fun day. Today we're going to be painting watermelon and lemonade. Oh, he's got to show you what he made. He made swag.
I made swag.
So he did a memorial sticker, so we're going to be sending out some of those to a few of you. Quite a few of you, actually, in memory of Miss Dot. He's been busy playing with AI. I played with AI this week, but I didn't make stickers. I do want to say hello to a few people. We've got Mary Davis. Hello, sweetheart. And Debbie Marlowe. Hello. I am feeling much better. Thank you. And Cordy Dixon. Nice to have you with us. And Peg Brandweed. Thank you, lovey. Glad to see you. And Judy Galt. Hello, sweetheart. Sandy Jackson. Nice to see you here. Hi, Grace. Sue Tate. Oh, my goodness. There's a whole bunch of new names on here. And Carolyn Spondenberg. Nice to have you with us again. Glad to have you. And Linda Martin and Brenda Owen. Hello, Brenda. Good to see you. And Jane Burrows from Myrtle Beach. You're under a tropical depression today. I hope everyone stays safe. Glad you are better and back painting. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be back too. Oh, Sandy Jackson, a Dottie sticker. From steamy northern Michigan, Linda Salsini. And Deb Daniker. Hello, sweetie. She loves the Dot sticker. And Lori Fife, my pal. I love seeing you here every week, Lori. It's so nice to see you. I miss seeing you through the summer. You used to come by our area playing for the ball tournaments. And I miss seeing you. And Judy Thacker, my girl. And Deborah Cross. Brenda Sawyer. Hi, Brenda. And Robert Storm. I sound so much better. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling a whole lot better. Thank you. All right. Well, everybody is coming in today, and it's so nice to see you all. And I love the comments. There's Faye Reed and my pal Patrick. And Ann Easterling. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's here today. Oh, there's Lucy. Terrible storms in Texas. The flash flooding down there is just terrible. So keep those people in your thoughts, please. There's some families going through some very sad times this week. So keep your thoughts positive for them. Hopefully some of those people will be rescued. And there's Donna. Hi from Rich and me. Hi. Good to see you guys. Okay. We are going to be painting something fun and summery. There's nothing better. I'm absolutely addicted to fresh watermelon. I've been eating it constantly lately. I just love it. Of course, I'm a big fan of lemonade too. So
I've also been sharing it with the dog.
I've also been sharing it with the dog. She turns her nose up at it though.
She's wanting the whipped cream, that's why.
That's what she wants, the whipped cream. Yeah, that's what it is. The pup cup thing. So this is the piece that we're painting today. It's got to have daisies if it's going to be summer, right? So some fresh watermelon, some bright tangy lemonade. I love the mason jar. I don't know what it is about the mason jar mug, but I love painting that. And of course, got to tuck in some little bumblebees too, because I like my bumblebees.
Your partner in crime's in the chat too.
Is she? Uh-oh.
Sandy McDeer's there.
Hey, Miss Sandy. Hello, sweetheart. I love my Saturday morning message. Every Saturday, Sandy sends me a little message about have a great live and whatnot. It's just a nice little shot in the arm every Saturday. It's a little wave, little pink hand waving. Hi, lovies. Salt on watermelon? Yes.
Yeah, a little salt in the
A
water.
little bit. Just a little bit. It just pops the flavor really nicely. All right, guys. If you guys are ready to get started on watermelon and lemonade, so am I. Thank you, Linda. That's a nice thing to say. Lord, now I have to type a lot since I'm number one. Yes, keep yourself busy, Lucy. A busy Lucy is a trouble-free Lucy.
Stay out of handcuffs.
Stay out of handcuffs. That's always good advice, no matter who you are. Well,
depends
unless it's, you know, if that's your thing, whatever. Oh, yeah, she's, goodness gracious, Miss Sandy is a busy girl. And don't forget, guys, Sandy's got a live on Sundays. Go and check her out. She's amazing. She's always got something fun to share. Salt on watermelon and cucumbers. Abso-freaking-lutely. And Cheryl Overgaard. Yes. Yes, Lucy. It's taken a couple of years, but yes, absolutely. And there's my girl, Linda. Which means Mary is probably watching. So I'm going to say hello to Mary. So this one, the stencil we're using today is Sashiko number 5. I love these. For those of you that don't know what it is, Sashiko is a traditional form of Japanese embroidery. It's usually done on a dark blue with a white thread. Normally, it's done on a variety of colors, but its most traditional is on a darker blue. It is, this one, I just love this sort of little daisy pattern. I thought it worked very well with this design. It reminded me of an old-fashioned tablecloth, and so that's why I used it. It just really kind of appealed to me for that purpose. So I'm going to position my stencil, and I'm going to tape it into place so that it doesn't shift. Watermelon, I absolutely love fresh watermelon. And I've been having melon and cantaloupe and honeydew for breakfast this past week. I've not been 100%. I went for some testing this week. All went well. But it is not a pleasant thing to go through. It's a histamine test. So essentially they want to trigger an asthma attack so that they can figure out how best to treat you. Wasn't fun. And I'm still not, that's what I find really funny, is that I still have not completely cleared up from it. But not too bad. And I'm back on all of the medication. I had to stop taking it for 2 weeks, so I had no inhalers and no medication whatsoever for the asthma, to control my asthma. So I haven't gone anywhere. Haven't been outside. Aside from going to the hospital and a quick trip into the shopping center, I have not gone anywhere because I just did not want to run the risk of triggering an attack and then having to use it. So, just not a fun thing to do. So, now that it's all done and over with, I'm back to taking all of my appropriate meds for my asthma, and now I can breathe without wheezing or gasping. So, just a little congested. I think I'm maybe coming down with a summer cold, which would just add insult to injury as far as I'm concerned. So, we're just going to stencil. It does not need to be fully opaque. It does not need to be perfect because we're going to stress the dickens out of it anyway. It is a nice stencil. It is a really pretty one. It's very delicate, but yet it's very simple, which appeals to me a great deal. I like simplicity. I like things like polka dots and whatnot. Simplicity works, especially when you're doing something that has sort of I won't say a country vibe, but a very relaxed vibe. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get to. And it actually translates very nicely. So it's an easy one to line up because you've got lots of elements with which to line it up. So it works quite well. And it's quite delicate, which peels. Although it's a lot of pattern, it's not a really busy pattern. So it's a fun one to use. And again, we're not looking for fully opaque or even perfect. We just need a little pattern. Look how pretty that is. It has a nice, I was trying to think the other day how you would describe this, but it has, I want to say, like a 1950s vibe to it. It just has this very basic, very simple pattern, and it's pretty. There's Dawn. And Marnie Mac. What size is this surface? This is just a demo surface. This is what I'm just demoing the background. The surface that we're using for the painted piece is an 8x10. So you can do this on canvas, you can do this on wood, it doesn't matter. But just a standard 8x10. This is an MDF panel. That's what I'm using for this one. I'm going to use this small one for a demo. But this is the size it actually looks like. I wanted to have my line drawing and everything on. So once you have your stenciling done, I'm going to dry it to make sure it's good and dry. Here we go. There's a variety of designs in the sashiko. This is one of my favorites, but I picked out 6 overall that really appealed to me that I thought were quite pretty, and then they were such pretty ones. I've been looking at getting some more. That would be helpful, wouldn't it, Milena? I didn't even tell you guys what the background color is. This background color for this is deep midnight blue, and then the color that I stenciled with is cobblestone. So I'm going to take a sander and I'm going to distress this a little just to soften the design a bit. So you can sand through to wear it down a little if you find it's too bright. You don't want this super bright, just sort of back there, if you know what I mean. So there we go. Give that, and I'm going to give this a wipe. I'm going to put a little water in this paper towel and wipe this down. There we go. So it's just softly distressed. I don't want to sand it all off, but just lightly distressed so that it's not perfectly consistent everywhere. Just soft. And then we're going to take a little bit of that background color, which is that deep midnight blue. Just a little bit. We don't need a lot of it for this. And going to use a nice wet brush. You're going to thin it out quite a bit. And you're just going to put a light wash over top. All this is going to do is just soften the overall effect of that stenciling, mute it a little bit. And that's all we're going to do to that. So it's just to mute that color a little bit. Just softens it, gives it a nice subdued look. Hey Sheila! Yeah, I know, the morning got away from me too. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to take a little bit of asphaltum around the outside edge just to give it a little bit of warmth at those edges. There we go. Hi Kathy. And Carrie, hello. So I'm going to rinse this brush out, and then we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum to go around the outside edge. I'm glad to see me better too. Last Wednesday, my members had a live class, part one of their live class, and then Thursday afternoon, I had to go out and do a little bit of shopping, birthday shopping for our daughter. And while I was out, I tweaked my back somehow, not sure how, and it left me in extraordinary pain because the sciatic nerve got trapped, and so I had pain down both legs. I couldn't take a step, so the only thing holding me up was the cart at the grocery store. So when I came home, I literally had to get some muscle relaxants and put my feet up, but it got quite bad. So that's one of the reasons that I did not have a live last weekend, was because I was laid up with that. And then, so I was dealing with that, and then I had to go for testing this Wednesday. Hi Gordy, the stencil is on my website if you're looking for it. And I saw somebody ask me a question. Iron on, yes, absolutely. Yep. So it was just, one of those weeks. But it's not something that haven't been through before, so I have exercises to do, and I kept up my walking and took my meds, and I behaved myself, but yes. So now I'm pretty much back to normal. Pretty much, I'm just taking a little easy on the back, that's all. No heavy lifting for a while. So that is your background. Very simple, quite subtle. I really love this stencil. I just think it really plays up very nicely. I've used it in a couple of other designs. And I particularly like it in this one. I just love this, this little bit of pattern. It's sort of spattered here and there. So it is a really nice stencil. It works well for a variety of things. So that is your background. Deep midnight blue, stencil with cobblestone, and then a wash of deep midnight blue over top of the stencil, and then a float of asphaltum around the outside edge. So works really nicely. So that is your background, step by step by step. It's a simple one, but it's very effective for what we're going to be doing today. So let's move over to this. So I have my line drawing traced on this. I just used a little bit of white graphite. I'm going to grab, I've got a Dynasty Water Lily 3/8 angled shader, and I'm going to grab a little bit of Prussian blue. Oh, those muscle relaxers. They did a lot for my, they help the pain, they alleviate that muscle spasm that creates the issue in the first place. but they do wonders for my attitude. Just saying. So I've got a 3/8 angle and a 1/2 inch angle, and that's what I'm going to be working with today. So I've got a little bit of Prussian blue on my angle. A nice wide float. Now this is going to lift our various elements off of the background. We're just going to float around our mug here. Don't forget to get inside there. Tuck in behind some of those flowers. This is just going to create that much needed little shadow back there. And it's going to give us the depth that we want. The nice part is that because we're doing this first, we don't have to worry too much about, you know, the flowers, the leaves, any of that. We can just put that color in there without worrying overly. And it's going to give us a nice bit of depth back there. And this is a fun piece to paint. I chose this color palette because, well, it was coming up on the 4th of July, you know, Independence Day, and I thought my friends in the U.S. could use something bright and colorful, and this is very summery, and I really like the sort of patriotic color palette for this. It worked well. So I'm going to come inside my mug a little bit here and just get a little bit of that color in there. Just like that. It just gives a little more depth and shape to the mug. So I'm going to bring a little of that in like this. Now, all of that, there we go. So we've got a nice little shadow in there. It's not really strong shadow, but we did need a good shadow. Just something to set this forward a little. There we go. And I like that darker corner down in there. And we're going to bring that down to the very bottom here as well. Underneath all of these leaves. Underneath our little flower there. And across the bottom under our mug. And underneath our watermelon. It just needs a little more depth down there. There we go. I'll make that corner a little darker. There we go. This just helps give that a little grounding, brings this so it's sitting on top of something. I really like this sort of quasi-patriotic, I guess. I love the bright yellow stars, the red stripes, the blue. It just brings all of that together. I just thought it was a fun design with that crisp white of the daisies. So it's just a fun one. And it's a happy one. I like the happy colors. And things are so tense these days. I think people just need a little happy. So while we're working with all of that Prussian blue, we're going to shade our lettering as well. So we're going to put a float of Prussian blue to the right of each letter, like so. Now this part is not cut in stone. If you prefer to do it on the left, that's okay too, but I like it on the right. Just, I habitually put it on the right. And then don't forget all of those little lines underneath, those have to be done too. The fun part of this is it doesn't have to be really neat. Hey, Cheryl. So, yeah, the only thing that I'm dealing with now is just dealing with this, what feels like a little, maybe it's just an allergy, I don't know, but it feels like a head cold coming on. So, but a head cold I can deal with. They're just no fun. Who likes a summer cold? I mean, really. So this simple little shadow is just going to help make this lettering stand out and up. I love that when you put this little float in on lettering, it just doesn't look like it's stuck on there. It gives it a little elevation. And it just makes the lettering look better. Gives it lots of height. Now we have two little bumblebees on here. I'm going to do the same thing to the bumblebee. I'm going to put a little float to the right of him. And the same with this one. A little bit. Just to give him a little lift as well. And as we go, we can deepen and enhance all of those floats too. So we've got our shading in. So we have to start putting in a little bit of our base color. And I'm going to use a nice big round brush. You can use a round, you can use a filbert, whatever you're most comfortable with, quite honestly. Do I like that brush for floating? I love angles for floating. I like the Dynasty Water Lily. It's very soft, and so you get nice soft floats. Black Gold gives you nice crisp, sharp edges because the brush has a crisp, sharp edge, and you get very nice crisp floats. And for softness and very watery, I like my Dynasty Faux Squirrel. So I change from one to the other based on what I want out of my float. So if I want loose and watery, Faux Squirrel. If I want soft, delicate, and consistent, I use the Water Lily. And if I want clean, crisp, and sharp floats, Dynasty Black Gold. So I switch from one to the other because I'm constantly looking for what works at the time, what's working for whatever I'm painting and whatever effect I'm trying to get. So it varies constantly. So we're going to base coat our lemonade with a little bit of warm white. There's Sherry DeGraw. Hello. Apparently it's gray in the northwest. So I'm going to put a little bit of warm white on my lemonade. Does not have to be fully opaque. It's a wash, quite honestly. Neatness doesn't count for this, to be honest. I'm just kind of winging it in and around those leaves. I have my line drawing attached, so if I need to put it back on, I can. But I like to go around things as much as possible. It is not neat, not pretty, but it's going to serve a purpose. There we go. So, there we are. It is not pretty, but it fills up that space. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the watermelon. I'm not going to worry too much about the seeds. I know the seeds are on there, but I'm not worried about them. And again, I'm not overly concerned with the watermelon being fully opaque. I just want to block out some of that dark blue. I just want to reduce the effect it has on the color that I'm going to put down. Just like that. And as always, when I'm base coating, I follow the shape of the piece or the area that I am painting. It just, if you've got brush marks, then it falls into the original design easily. You don't have to work too hard to cover it up. Now, I have a white rind here. I'm going to go against the first direction to put that rind in. There we go. There we are. And because I'm using a lighter green for the rind, I'm going to put a layer of white over that as well. There we go. Now all we're doing with this white is simply blocking out some of this dark blue. So because we're using red, we don't want this red to compete with the blue. We want it to work together. If that blue is not covered up with white, we'll end up having to put layer upon layer upon layer on to get a nice bright red. Because I'm putting down a white, I'm going to be able to reduce the influence that this blue has on the final color. So I'm going to dry this really well. Now the color that I used for our watermelon is, yes, watermelon slice. This is a great red. Everybody contending with the high temperatures. We had ridiculous temperatures here the last week. I don't do heat, so I stayed indoors a lot for a number of reasons. So I'm going to base coat our watermelon. Again, I'm going to use the same method to paint the watermelon as I did for the base color, putting that white down. I'm going to follow the shape of the watermelon, that wedge shape. And it does make a big difference in the end, not having paint going in every which way. If it goes on the same way or the same direction as the shape, it makes a huge difference. I'd rather have brush marks all going in the same direction, because then you can make them fall into the overall piece. So I'm just going to crisp that up. Having that white down reduces the influence of the blue underneath on your base color. So there we go. Now I'm going to dry that and then I'm going to put on a second coat. And if you painted with me before, you know I very rarely put a second coat of anything on. But in this particular case, I want a nice bright color. So I am making sure that I've got a fairly uniform coat on. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be fully opaque either. But you do want it consistent. And by painting it this way, you eliminate a lot of that. So I'm going to put that second coat on. And then I'm going to pull the strokes in the other direction to get rid of that line, because I don't like that. There we go. Look at that. That little bit makes such a difference. Here we go. Do I use any medium at all? I'm using a little bit of Jo Sonja's Fast Dry Glaze in my paint, always. I don't usually paint with water. I usually use the Fast Dry when I paint. So when I'm thinning paint for line work, for base coating and whatnot, a little bit of Fast Dry in the brush goes a long way. And then I'm going to put a second coat of white on the rind here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And it really doesn't have to be fully opaque. But I want it to be nice and clean. Nice long brush marks. Those long strokes make a world of difference to the end result. There we go. Now, the color that I'm using for the rind, I'm using a little bit of that new color. This is Avocado Toast. If you don't have it, Matcha Green will work just fine. But I've really become very attached to this color. It's quite a lovely green, but that's going to be the color for the rind. Such a great green. And again, I used white on the rind for the same purpose. I want to reduce how much influence that blue has on the color that I'm putting on. And usually one coat will suffice if you've put that white down. Here we go. It's a great green, but we're going to change the look of it here shortly. Oh, I absolutely love watermelon. I love melon in general. There we go. Now this is a fun way to do this next bit. You're going to take your 3/8 angle and you're going to pick up a little bit of warm white on the heel of the brush, not on the toe, just the heel. You're going to blend it and you're going to pick up a little bit of watermelon slice on the toe. And you're going to blend those two colors together until you get a very soft pink. And then you're going to float right along that seam like so. Get that pink right up against the darker pink on the watermelon. And this is going to give you that sort of soft transition into the the pith. Gotta be careful how you say that on here. So that double load gives you a nice soft blend from the pink into the white. Et voila. I like any kind of melon. So I have a big tray upstairs in the fridge, and I took a whole cantaloupe, a whole honeydew, and a whole mini watermelon, and I cut it all up into pieces and put it in there. And that's my breakfast for most of the week, because I love it. So for our watermelon, we're going to get some really nice depth in this, and we're going to use a color called Berry Cobbler. And I like this one. It's sort of a magenta tone. It's not really a pink, not really a purple, but it has a nice magenta tone to it. So that's the color we're going to use to shade our watermelon, to get that nice depth of color. I'm going to go back to my 1/2 inch angle for this. A little bit of Joe Sonia in the brush. It should be wet, just not drippy. And you're going to pick up a little bit of that watermelon slice on the heel of the brush, and a little bit of the berry cobbler on the toe of the brush, and you're going to blend those two colors together. And then we're going to put a float along the bottom, and we're going to do it this way. Float tight, tight, tight to that line. Use the whole chisel edge of the brush. Get that whole chisel edge down on the brush. If you're tipping it up on the point, you are not using the whole brush, and you need to for this. Pick up some of that color, come back. And then on the second pass, you're going to just tap and pull. Again, whole chisel edge of the brush on the surface. And you're going to tap and pull the color back towards. Always keep the heel of the brush pointing to the tip of the slice of watermelon. Okay, don't be afraid to pick up more color. It doesn't matter if it's a little darker in places, it actually makes it look more lush. Okay? And then we're going to do that again. Moving from the tip out. It's a little bit of color, bring it up to the point. And on the second pass, you're just going to tap and pull. Put the whole chisel edge of the brush on the surface. It's going to give you a nice texture. So when we dry this, I'm going to come back to my smaller angle. And I'm just going to use a little bit of the berry cobbler, and we're going to put nice little shadow up underneath those leaves. Just a little bit of that right there, in and around those leaves. It's just a little float. Doesn't have to be anything too elaborate or even perfect. It's just to get a little shadow in there. Here we go. So I have my chalk pencil. I could trace the line drawing back on, but I'm going to wing it. So I'm going to dry this real quick. Arendelle. Oh, summertime, ready for watermelon. Oh, I got a watermelon last week at Costco, and it was just perfection. It was so good. What brand of angled shaders do I use? My favorite brushes are Dynasty brushes. I am a Dynasty girl. Been with them for close to 20 years. Been using the same brushes. I use 3 different types. I use the Dynasty Water Lily, which is a very soft brush. It's primarily developed for acrylic and watercolor. It has a very soft brush. It's great for doing nice soft floats. I also use Dynasty Black Gold. It has a very sharp chisel edge, gives you really sharp and well-defined floats. And then I also use the Dynasty Faux Squirrel. So any one of those three brands within the Dynasty line I use. I like them all for different reasons. It depends on what you like. If you like a very sharp, crisp, clean brush that gives you well-defined floats, crisp edges, etc., then a Dynasty Black Gold. If you like floats that have a nice loose, watery look, I'm a big fan of the Faux Squirrel because it's a nice thick, it's a very substantial brush, has a lot of hair in the bristle, it holds a ton of water, and it's great for acrylic or for watercolor. And if you like things that are a little softer, if you prefer a softer brush, then the Dynasty Water Lily. So any one of those three, I will switch in and out all the time. It all depends on what I want. I love Faux Squirrel. That is my signature line. I have been using it for 20 years. Okay, so I'm going to use, I've got a chalk pencil here. I'm going to just quickly draw in some simple seeds. I don't like them too pointed. I like them rounded on both ends, but just a smaller one at the point. 3 or 4. Doesn't have to be a ton. I like less rather than more for seeds. And we're going to base coat those with a little bit of lamp black. Now, if you're going shopping on the Brush Guy's website, he's got great deals on right now. On a variety of brands, not just the Dynasty brand, but on a variety of brands. But you can get an extra discount if you use the coupon code Tracy M. Will give you an extra discount on anything that you purchase. So everybody likes to save a little bit. That's the ideal way to do it. So I'm going to grab a small round. I've got a number 2, I think it is. 3, sorry. It's a number 3. And a little bit of lamp black. And we're going to paint in those lovely little seeds. The nice thing about doing this with a chalk pencil is that it will literally wash away when I hit it with a little bit of water, or even just with the paint. They wash away quite easily. So there's our seeds. There we go. So I'm going to dry that. And we're going to use a little bit of that I nailed you at gunpoint, didn't I? Yeah, Karen, when she got into painting, I'm afraid I kind of strong-armed her. So I'm going to put a little float of that berry cobbler to the right of each of those little seeds, just to give it a little oomph. The nice part is that chalk line disappears. So there we are. No, you did not miss what's for dinner. We are having our annual lobster feed tonight. A friend took care of getting us some fresh lobster right off the boat, and so we have probably about 35-40 pounds of lobster. So we're going to have a feed tonight, and then we're going to shell it and then freeze the rest so that we can use it through the winter. But yes, we have a feed of lobster on for tonight. So the only thing I really have to do is perhaps make a salad if I really feel like it. And then, you know, Lots of dipping butter. That's about the size of it. That's what for dinner. What time is dinner? I'm not telling. So, for our seeds, I'm going to apply a really weak float of thinned warm white to the upper left of each seed white. Okay, gotta switch brushes here. This one is being persnickety. Won't hold a chisel edge for some reason. Here we go. So I'm just going to put a light float on the upper left side of each of these seeds. Here we go. And then to finish them, we're going to use, my goodness, that rigger has seen better days. I'm going to use a little dot, a little stroke of warm white on a rigger. You could do it with a liner too. It's just a fine line like this. Just a slight curve. Just to make that watermelon seed stand up a bit. Love it. I'm going to use my berry cobbler. I want to deepen the shadow along this edge here. There we go. Look at that. Watermelon is taking shape. So let's dry this. How fun is that? So I'm going to rinse out my brushes here. Just realized that I had every brush I was using in the water basin. I should do a lobster apron pattern. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Oh, I've been looking forward to feet of lobster. There we are. Now, one of the things that I put in today's giveaway was one of these little things. It's not a stencil brush. It's too soft to be a stencil brush. But it is a blender. And I thought it would be fun to make sure that, that some of you got one of these. I just think they were kind of cool. You know how you come across things in a cosmetic department and go, oh, we could use that. That's what happened to me. I found them. I don't know who makes them. I just thought they were really cool, so I had to try them. And so I put one in the giveaways for today. I'm going to load that up with a little bit of warm white, just like you would a stencil brush, really. I guess it is kind of a stencil brush, but. And I'm going to blot it a little bit. And we're going to just put a dry brush of a little bit of warm white in and around those seeds. It's a little too soft. And I dried the brush right now. I put white in it and then blended it too well. Ah, there, okay. Now we got paint. I just want like a little light, just to make it look wet, if that makes sense. So it's just a little dry brush in and around the seeds a little bit, just to give it that sort of wet look, I think is the word I was looking for. There we go. I like it. So we have our rind down here. What is that? It does look like a thing with a glass of milk, but it won't for long, I promise. So I'm going to use a little bit of plantation pine I'm going to thin it out a little bit. And we're going to come over to the rind here. And we're going to put a scribble of green like that. And I'm going to space these out. They don't have to be perfect. Just a little bit. And then we're going to dry it and then give it a little darkening. We're just going to deepen it a little bit. My mom was going to cook lobster as well. I love finding these funky little brushes. You never know what's going to come in handy. So I found some like gigantic Q-tips that I thought were really cool too. There we go. So, cool. Look at our watermelon. Looking pretty good. Now, the fun part about doing all of this is that if at any time you want to deepen a color, you just go back in with another float. You want that purple a little deeper in the watermelon? Go for it. You can do it. It's awesome. It just makes things look so good. If you need to subdue the white, because I kind of overdid it on this one, I'm just going to brush a little of it over top. There we go. Now there's all kinds of fun ways you can make this look more wet. You could take a little more white, you know, on some of these highlighted areas. You can put a little dab of white in places. You can brighten that border down here at the base where it joins the rind. You can brighten that a little bit. Just put a stroke of that warm white across there and brighten it. But look at that. Watermelon. So I'm going to dry that. Now you can take a little bit of thinned asphaltum. I know somebody was going to ask me if I was using asphaltum at all in this. Then you can put a little float of thinned asphaltum over top of your rind right here. Just makes it look a little more realistic. So there's our watermelon. What is the chalk pencil that I'm using? This is actually a seamstress's pencil. It's a Bohin from France. You can find it in almost any sewing section in quilting stores and whatnot. It's a fabulous chalk pencil. It works really well on this type of work. And as I said, if you make a mistake with it, or if you don't like it, or whatever you've done, you can just simply put a little bit of water on it and it will come right off. So these are fantastic. It's a Bohin of France. It's a French one. They're fabulous. Worth every penny. So remember our lemonade? We put all that white in, that glass of milk. I think that's hilarious, personally. We're going to put a coat of baby duck in there. I love baby duck. I just love that color. I am going to give myself a clean palette, though, because, you know, because. So, a little bit of, I'm going to move my camera here, just a scooch. There we go. Okay, I'm just making sure I've got my paint on my palette. Super simple way to do the rind. Honestly. Honest to God. There we go. Couldn't get it out of the bottle. So I've got a little bit of baby duck. I'm going to keep that handy. I love baby duck. This is one of my favorite yellows. It very quickly became a favorite. It's a new color, but it's just very quickly become a favorite. So we're going to put baby duck over that white. And it probably will take a couple of coats. And take your time putting it in because we want nice, clean, crisp edges. I just think this is a fun... I know that lemonade should not be fully opaque, but, you know, it's my lemonade and I can do what I want. Let's face it. We aren't doing super realistic. And that's okay. Not everything has to be super realistic. If somebody looks at it and goes, that looks like lemonade, then that's good enough. In my view. And again, we're only putting down the white so that we reduce the amount of influence that that dark blue has on our base color. And yeah, it looks kind of sloppy, and that's okay. Because as soon as it's dry, we're going to put another coat on anyway. And then the other colors that we put on are going to change it again, so I'm not too worried. We do, if I'm not mistaken, we do have a, oh my stars, we do have a coupon code on the website right now in honor of July 4th. It's Happy 4th, all one word. If you're purchasing anything on the website, use that coupon code, get your discount, and that includes all of the sale items as well. So if you picked out something that's on sale, like all the surfaces are on right now, and plus we have deals on a few other things. The M-Square stencils are on right now, so good time to stock up. And we've only, the new stencils that just came in, we've got a limited supply of. But we got some really nice ones in. I'm rather excited. We've got a whole bunch of floral background stencils, which are really cool. There's Judy. Hi, Judy. And Tara, hello. It's just strong lemonade. Yes, it is, Debbie. Strong lemonade. We'll go with that. Okay, so I'm going to dry this real quick, and then I'm going to quickly put on a second coat. Baby duck is just such a versatile color. In my view, it's the perfect yellow. It's soft, it's creamy looking, and yet you can make it look so bright just in combination with some other colors. So I absolutely love this color. So I'm going to put on a second coat. This time around I'm going to paint right over those leaves because and besides, I'm going to trace them back on anyway. I hate doing it, but I will. So, there we are. I have this aversion to tracing over things. A lot of conversation about the flash floods in Texas. Such a terrible thing. Shows to go, yeah. Never know what can happen, sadly. So a lot of families there that are I have one of those signs, Cindy. It didn't take long before everybody in my house knew don't bother her when she's doing it. But my guys are pretty good. I have no complaints. it's amazing to me that even with that base of white down, that blue still wants to be cranky. So there we go. Oh, goodness. So we've got baby duck on our lemonade, but we have to make this look a little more lush. And I'm going to show you something fun too while I'm at it. So we've got all that lemonade in there. And make sure it's good and dry. Oh my. Now the color that I'm going to shade all of this yellow with is saffron. It's one of my favorite yellows. It's one of those yellows that when you pick it up you go, what in God's name would I ever use that for? Because it's such a bright yellow and it's such a high energy yellow. It's very saturated. In the DecoArt media line, one of my favorite colors is diarrhea yellow, which is almost identical to this. And I love that yellow. I love that it's got that ultra bright look to it. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that saffron yellow, and we're going to shade this side. Nice big wide float in there, and across the bottom, just like that. I've got lots of water in my brush, or not water, but glaze in my brush, primarily because I want this to not be fully opaque. I want this one to have a nice loose watery edge. I don't want it to look like a solid line. I want it to have, just leave this open area here. That's all I really want. And then I'm going to use that across the top like so. And again on the other side as well. And this just makes that yellow, the top of that, just look that much more vibrant. Uh-oh. Here's trouble. Hi, Mace. Oh, somebody's going for a walk, obviously. Are you going for a walk? Hey, it's a ball time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say.
Gonna be another hour or so?
Oh, yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mace gets a little excited when it comes time for her walk. It's actually time for her, she goes for a little bit of ball time and a training session at this time of day. So she gets to go and blow off a whole bunch of energy that she seems to have stored up overnight. She's already had one walk today. So she'll go for her ball time and her training session this afternoon. She'll come home and she might have a nap, depending on how the training session went. And then she'll be ready for another walk at about 6 o'clock tonight. And she'll be ready to raise hell. Because that's just Maze. Oh, my stars, Kay. Well, better safe with Grandma. Better safe with Grandma. Okay, so we've got, look at our bright yellow. Oh, yeah. Oh, and that was mild, Gail. That was mild. You should hear her some days. Trying to find my polka dot maker here. I have a circle maker somewhere. There it is. There it is. So we're going to use I have a circle maker, a template. It's just for making circles in a variety of sizes. So I'm going to use this to make the bubbles. Right in here. And I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. And I'm going to use a small stencil brush. So we're going to put bubbles in here. I should dry that. Maze has a chucket. And she absolutely loves anything to do with her chucket. So, polka dots. I'm just going to do 3 in different sizes. So you can have one a little bit bigger and then have them graduate in size. They don't need to be super big. And a little bit of warm white to put those 3 bubbles in. Check it out. So just like that. And then you're going to highlight those bubbles in the upper left or right. It really doesn't matter. Just as long as you put a little dot on the bubbles. There we go. Comme ça. There's our lemonade. And then we're going to use a little bit of thinned warm white. We need to have a couple of highlights here. We need one where the straw enters. We need one on the back edge where it meets the glass. And we need one on the front edge. Primarily, the brightest highlight should be right in that center area where the light strikes. And then just have it get a little smaller as it goes out. Look at that. So, super simple way to paint that. Now, when this is dry, we're going to use, remember that little soft brush? We're going to do something similar to our lemonade that we did with the watermelon. We're just going to put a soft little dry brush just in that highlight section in the center of the cup. There we go. It's just to make this a little bit brighter in the middle. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to come up here to our slice of lemon. Seeing as we're using all of the same colors, I'm going to take a little bit of warm white and, oh goodness, kind of messed that up, but that's okay. Just like we did with the watermelon slice and with the lemonade, we're going to put a little bit of warm white. Just thin it a little. It doesn't have to be fully opaque at this point. There we go. Not too bad. Thin it out a little bit more, and then we're going to paint the inside of those wedges. And again, I paint those shapes just like I did with the other things. I follow the shape of the piece and bring the color back to the point. So we have a nice little lemon slice. Like so. Now this is clear, this is glass, so we have to bring that along a little. And again, it's just sort of implied. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So, but you have to have something that indicates that it's going in behind that glass. So there we have that. Just a little. So I'm going to dry it, and we're going to base coat the wedges with baby duck. Love this color. It is such a great yellow. And this is such an easy technique. Again, I'm following the shape of that wedge. And for a reason. It's going to work in our favor as we go along. It's a great way to make those brush marks, if you have any, work in your favor. Because it falls into the texture of the piece that you're painting. It just, in the end, makes things so much simpler. So, there we go. And then I'm going to grab a rigger. And I'm going to bring that baby duck. And we're going to paint the rind. Just the rind. Oh, goodness. Got a little too much water in that. Or a little too much glaze, I should say. Okay. So about 1/8 of an inch. We're going to put that rind on all the way around the outside edge, right on that white, so that it covers about half of that white rind that we just put on there. About half. There's your bright yellow, your lemon yellow, I should say. We're doing it with baby duck. And then we're going to grab some of that warm white. Ooh. And we're going to paint that pith around it all with a little bit of warm white. And this is where you're going to fill up that space. Et voila. Now you might still see a little bit of that dark blue around this. You can paint right up to the edge, it's fine. Here we go. There we are. So we've got nice base color down. Again, it does not have to be fully opaque. You can see when you look at this that all the brush marks go from this edge down to the point, and that makes things so much easier because we're going to take a little bit of saffron yellow and we're going to put a float at the top of that wedge like that. Remember how we did the watermelon? We're going to do something similar to the inside of these lemon slices. So a little float with that saffron yellow right at the edge. And you can see the texture. You can see there's texture in there. I love potato salad. It's my one. I think it's my favorite summer salad, and it's a staple here. I make it every year. White potatoes, diced tomatoes, diced celery, diced carrot, a little bit of chopped bacon, red onion, lots of garlic, and I mix 1 cup of mayo with a 1/2 cup of Miracle Whip. I don't like it sweet, so I like it with more of a zing. So there we go. Now I'm going to take that chisel edge, just like we did with the watermelon, and I'm just going to tap and pull. Use the whole chisel edge of the brush. And it gives you a nice texture. Again, it follows the shape of that wedge. Hey Jessica, good to have you here, honey. House is coming along, good for you. So, I'm going to dry that. And then we're going to take a rigger and a little bit of that saffron, and we're going to bring a little of that yellow just on the outside edge. So it's a thin line of that bright yellow right there, just at the outside edge. You could float it, but honestly it's just simpler to do it with a liner or a rigger. Put it in there. Look at that. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to take a little bit of warm white, and I'm going to make some very fine little strokes like this in there. You could do 3 or 4, just using little strokes of warm white. They can be like a little half finished comma stroke if you want to, little teardrop shape. Just a little highlight on each part of that wedge. Now, I'm going to dry this really well, but I'm going to show you something. Blue cheese potato salad, I have that recipe. And I learned something new the other day that I did not know. I've had this seasoning recipe for years that my mother used to use for a salad dressing, and it was called bumblebee. And apparently it's a southern thing. I did not realize that until just recently. I saw a recipe for it in a southern magazine, and I went, wow. Did not know that, but apparently that's where it originated. It was someplace in South Carolina. It's called bumblebee salad dressing. So we've got our lemon slice, we've got our lemonade, we've got our watermelon. Oh, I love blue cheese. Oh. There we go. So, a little bit of asphaltum, and I do mean just a little. You don't want this full strength. I'm going to blend this out quite a bit. This is your toning color. Wherever you need a little extra shadow, like along here, it's just to deepen the color a little. And although it's subtle, it does make a difference. And I'm doing the same thing to the slices of lemon. Just over top of that saffron yellow, it just deepens it a little. Doesn't drastically change the color, but it deepens it a little. And now look at how that yellow pops there. And it's the same in here, where it's going to be around and under things. A little float of that heavily thinned asphaltum, it just deepens that yellow. Makes it almost a deeper golden color. So look at how much brighter the rest of this yellow looks because we put that little bit of asphaltum on top of it. It does make a tremendous difference. It's heavily thinned, so it's not drastically turning the yellow brown. It's just enough to tone it a bit. It works particularly well over top of yellows. Debbie, this is asphaltum. I know, you look at it and go, oh good lord, dark brown over all that yellow. Asphaltum is a yellow-based brown. And so when you thin it right out, it just tones these yellows, gives it a rich golden tone that works really nicely. So look at our lemon slice. Looks fabulous. So, our next step, we have 2 actually. We're going to do the straw. Hi Lisa, I'm glad you like it. I happen to like it too. So I'm going to use a rigger, and I'm going to base coat our straw with a little bit of warm white. I find this just works really well. Keeps this straw from looking too, I don't know, patchy or what have you. So I'm just using the rigger, pressing down till it opens up and it lets it fill that space. And I'm not worrying overly about these lines here, because we're going to go over top of all of it anyhow. One stroke of that. I think one coat is sufficient, quite honestly. It is a straw. I just like to keep everything neat and tidy. So I am keeping all of the strokes going in one direction. Keep it nice and straight. Here we go. This piece actually comes together surprisingly quick. Designing it did not come as quite as simply, to be honest. I was playing around with a variety of colors for the background. I actually wanted something more along the gingham blue type background. And I painted it 3 times, and I could not get that lighter blue to work. It was the only thing you could see. All I could see was this bright blue, and it just, nope, wasn't working. So I decided to go with something a little darker, and then I realized that part of the problem was the tone aspect. The yellows and the reds did not work with that blue, so I needed to tone it down. And so I went with a darker blue instead, and it worked beautifully. Let's see. You know, Lucy, you can hook me up with Slap Yo Mama. I actually make my own Boudin and Tony Chachere's. I love Tony Chachere's. What is the difference between a rigger and a liner brush? That is a great question, and let me show you. And this is the significant difference between the two. Let me grab a liner. Okay, so I've got a liner. I'm using a bigger one. Let me flatten this. When you look at these two brushes, I've got a liner and a rigger. The rigger, when you flatten it out, comes to a chisel edge. It's square across the end. So it's much like a flat brush. With a liner brush, it's built more like a round. So when you press down on it, it forms a teardrop shape. So you get like a circle or a bit of an arch in the chisel edge of the brush. When you press down on one of these, you get a squared off edge like a flat brush. So think of these as a very long extended round and long extended flat. So that's the difference. Although they look the same when it comes to the ferrule, they both use that rounded ferrule, how the bristle is arranged in them makes a world of difference. In the rigger, they're chisel and flat straight across the top. Whereas with the round brush, they're arranged at different heights, so they form a curve or a teardrop shape. Hopefully that helps you. So that's the difference. Riggers are fabulous for doing a whole bunch of different things, but lettering in particular, I love them for lettering. So I'm going to finish the color on my straw here. My straw kind of got a little bigger at the end there. So I'm going to dry that. You're welcome. Oh my good. Happy 4th is not working. Should be working. Let me see. I can make it work here in 2 seconds. Well, maybe not 2 seconds, but 3 seconds, but it should be working. Today is only the 5th, and it was meant to go until Da-da-da. Oh my goodness. No, I don't know why it says that, but it's not supposed to. So we're going to edit. And now it should work. There you go. I love riggers. I mean, you can do so many things with a rigger. It's not funny. So I've got my straw base coated. I'm going to grab a little bit of watermelon slice. I love this color. Watermelon slice is a great color. So I'm going to take my rigger. Now I'm going to freehand this in, but you can use the line drawing. We're going to put a diagonal stripe across the straw. And I'm moving up. I'm trying to keep them all roughly the same size. And that means that the section in between them, that white stripe, should be roughly the same size as well. Roughly. So if you don't get them, you don't hit the nail on the head every time, but it's all good. So if you've got a 1/4 inch stripe, then a 1/4 inch white, and just alternate them all the way up. Now I'm freehanding it in, but you can use the line drawing. I'm lazy. I hate tracing things. What is a good shading color to use with grays and not asphaltum? It all depends on whether it's a cool gray or a warm gray. And how dark it is, because there's so many different grays. But if you've got a mid-tone gray, like a slate gray, I like to shade it with charcoal. Charcoal's one of my favorite grays. It's a warmer gray, so I tend towards something with a little deeper tone. But it all depends. And a good frame of reference. You know how painting companies will give you a stripe and they've got all these different colors on a strip? I will go down, count down 1, 2, and take the third color, and then go 1, 2, and take the next third color. Those are your mid-tone and your dark tone for me. And that's generally how I think of shading things. I look, if my base color is the mid-tone, not the lightest color, then I choose something in the darkest values to do the shading with. But again, it depends on whether or not it's a warm gray or a cool gray. That's the biggest factor for me.
We just had a breakthrough.
Did we really? What did we break through?
I managed to trim all 4 of her paws.
Wow.
Without a muzzle.
Without a muzzle, and you didn't get bit. No blood. Good for you. Maze doesn't like it when you touch her feet.
She needed her nails trimmed.
She did, yes. So there we go. I've got a little boo-boo I've got to fix right here. I managed to...
Need the boo-boo?
Okay. Shush. I do make them from time to time,
What? No, you're perfect.
No, I'm not. Not even close.
Lies and slander.
There we go. Fixed. Fixed boo-boos. It is aptly named. It does look like watermelon. So, there's my stripes. And I'm going to shade the straw with Prussian blue. So a little bit of Prussian blue. I love Prussian blue. It's a nice transparent dark blue and it works really great. Miss Maze would literally bite you if you tried to trim her nails. She hated having her feet touched. And so yeah, that's a huge breakthrough that he managed to trim her nails without getting bit. So I'm going to put a float of Prussian blue on the underside of our straw. Comme ça. All the way up. Choop, choop, choop. Just like that. And then, of course, there's an opening in the straw, so we're going to use a little float, little C-shaped float at the top of the straw to make an opening. Now, to highlight said straw, we're going to use a float of warm white. You're going to come in from the edge just slightly. We're going to be a little sliver so that we see a little of that right through. And it's going to go all the way down. So leave a little gap, like so. This implies that it's cylindrical. Now I know you can't see that from this distance, so I'm going to hold it up. And then you're going to use a liner this time, because we want a nice fine line. I'm using, this is my zero liner, my script. You could use a 10-aught extra long detail liner as well. And you're going to put a highlight down that leading edge right through the red, right on the edge of that float, like so. That's your bright highlight down your straw. You can do it on the white too, it just doesn't stand out as much, that's all. But there is your brightest highlight. That is your impact point. That's where the light actually strikes. So all of a sudden your straw has definition. Super simple. So now we've got our lemon done, we've got our straw done, we've done our lemonade, and we've done our watermelon. Now we're going to do that mug. And this is a super easy way to do this. We are not looking for ultra realism here. We're going to use a little bit of Bahama blue. It's like my favorite blue ever. And somebody was asking about my fast dry glaze. This is what I put it in. I've got a little bottle that sits on my painting table, and this is what I dip into all the time. This is my fast dry glaze. And I'm going to mix that in with some Bahama blue, just thin it out a little bit. I love Bahama blue. And I like it because for me, this is the color of glass. Some glass, not all glass, but some glass. And we're going to use this color to paint our mug. I like this better than white. White just looks cold and, you know, kind of iffy. But this is what we're going to use to paint our glass. So nice thin line, doesn't have to be perfect, for the outer edge of the glass. You're going to need this to be quite thinned out so that you have control over it. We don't want a heavy, heavy line. And then all of those little bits, those little bobs and bits that are in there, they're actually highlights or reflections on the glass. So the outer line is a little thinner than these other ones. So we're going to use that to outline all of the bottle, or the mug, or whatever you want to call it. And it's especially wherever we've put that shadow that we did with the Prussian blue at the very beginning, you're going to find that it gives it a nice contrast. It makes all of that pop out. So you want to keep that first line fairly thin. Not super thin, but we want to be able to see it. Because all of those other lines, like this one here, these ones are going to be a little heavier. Those are all of those highlighted areas where the glass, there's reflections on the glass. Those are going to be thicker. That's these ones here. These are the areas where the light is striking the glass. And we need those to be a little more simplistic and a little more opaque. But they don't have to be perfect. The glass is always one of those interesting things to paint. There's different ways to do it. I could have floated highlights in and worked this. I wanted to keep this sort of playful and simplistic, but still have an element of realism in it. But I also didn't want this to be something that was going to take 3 weeks to paint. We only have like 3 hours at the most. So I want to be able to give you some options. So I like this look myself. I've used this technique a number of times for pieces. One of my favorites, somebody actually posted it recently. It was a gentleman's box that I had done for a Father's Day project for a magazine, and it had movie stars on it. And I used a similar technique for the movie stars. And so it worked very, very well. Here we go. I like this look. I just think it's kind of fun and easy way to do this. This is just the light impact on the glass. And we are going to brighten it, so don't feel that this is all there is to it, because it isn't, but it works well. So there we go. We've got a little bit of glass. That's looking nice. Need a little dippity-doo there. And then we have to do something similar down here at the bottom. What are you blocking, Bet? I think we have a bot in there. If we have a bot, would one of the monitors get rid of it, if you can? There we go. So, nice little bit in there. There we are. Okay, so now I've only got the 2 rails at the top of the mug right here. So if you were going to put the lid on the mason jar, this is what it would grab onto. So we've got, oops, not enough paint, too much glaze. There we go. Now, on that lemon, there's a few little spots where it's some of the background color is still showing. That's okay, because we're going to use a gel pen to add some details to this, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And then once we clean up a few of the graphite lines and whatnot, it'll all disappear anyway. So, there we go. That's not too shabby. So, we've got a mug, but we need to really make this reflection stand out. So we're going to use a little bit of warm white. And on those light impact points, which is these little bits here, we're going to put a few little things like that, just to indicate that that's where the light is striking. We're going to do the same thing on those little strokes. And I'm going to do some on this side too, because we need those highlights. This is light. This is glass. It's light passes through it, but it leaves its mark. And I like that little bit of light. I just think it makes things so much nicer. We also need a highlight right here on the edge of our glass. It needs to be not quite as wide as the stripe, but we need that little bit of white there. Right along the top. Same with the top of this. We need that little bright white. Because this is our highlighted area. So it gives this the illusion that everything is very transparent. But in actual fact, it's wide open. So we are going to use, I'm going to use a stencil brush for this next bit. I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white on my stencil brush. I'm going to blot because I don't want a ton of it. And we're going to add a brighter highlight right here with the dry stencil brush. Right in the middle. Very light touch. Just like that. And then I'm going to come over here and come down. And that kind of implies the shape of the neck, if you know what I mean. There we go. And bring it right down onto the lemonade. There we go. So I like the softness that this creates. But let me show you something. If you've got a highlight here, then it stands to reason that that highlight passes through the glass and hits the back side. So you have to repeat that back here. Just a little bit softer, but you do have to repeat it. And that's what gives this that circular feel, the feel that this is actually transparent. When I use my glaze, I don't use any water. No, I don't. I clean my brushes with water, but I float, shade, highlight, line. Everything is done with that glaze. That makes the paint flow off of the brush. So there's your mug. So we have leaves. Leaves, leaves, leaves for days. So we're going to use this. I love this avocado toast. We're going to do the leaves. I like doing the leaves first because they're tucked underneath the flowers. So we're going to use, interesting technique, yep. It's a fun and simple way to do glass. So I'm going to clean out my rigger. I'm using avocado toast for my leaves. You can use lush green, you can use whatever you like, really. Whatever blows your hair back. I'm going to base coat my leaves. I like these little teardrop shaped leaves. They're fun, they're simple. I've never seen a daisy with teardrop shaped leaves, but that's okay. It serves our purpose. There. And we've got 2 leaves over here. Also teardropped, but the other direction. And the daisies in this one are very simple. These, I'm just using a stroke technique to do this. We're going to use a comma stroke technique to do these daisies. Very simple, very quick. But I'm going to deal with these leaves first. There's that base color. Now, again, I'm going to grab my chalk pencil and I'm going to wing it with these leaves. Oh my goodness. Put my hand in wet paint. Go figure. There we go. There. I just need a... I'm going to have to fix a leaf or two. I like things when they're simple. I love a design that has textures and lots of color. I love color. Color is just, I think it's color that drives me half of the time. It's just, oh, I haven't played with watermelon slice in a while. Let's make something with watermelon. Okay, I put my finger right in the paint on these 2 leaves. Amazing, I didn't get it anywhere else, but I managed to mess up the base coat. There we go. Alrighty, so I'm going to dry this real quick. So when I select a color palette, I try to use a limited palette. I also try to use each of those colors in various ways so that the whole thing ties together. Hence the reason the same color that I used in the rind for the watermelon I used in the leaves. But I'm going to make the leaves look very different because I'm going to do a little bit of different shading. So I'm using the same colors, the plantation pine for my shading colors. But it's going to look a little bit different and it's going to create a different texture for these leaves. So all of my leaves are dry. We're going to shade the leaves like so. U-shaped float. And I'm applying the float to the pointed end of those teardrops where they join the stem. Same with the smaller leaves over here. And that float should cover almost half. Of each of those leaves. Almost half. Sorry, I got distracted by something I saw in the chat. Thought it was directed at me, it wasn't. So, okay. Don't want to miss a question. I keep my eyeballs on the chat for questions. So, nice little float of plantation pine. It should cover about half of the leaf. So it's not going to look like the rind, even though they're the same color. I like a limited palette. I find 9 times out of 10 when I'm looking at some designs, I find there's more colors than there need to be, than there needs to be. It just, I find it very difficult. It's the same with finding exact conversions for colors. I don't really worry about it. I've never believed that an exact conversion was necessary. You can find something that is tonally accurate, then the rest doesn't matter, to be honest. But that's my take on it. I like a limited palette. 42. So, I'm going to dry that real quick. And we are sneaking up on this one. There's a lot in this one, but honestly, it's not a difficult piece to paint. So I'm going to take that same plantation pine. We're going to very quickly put some center veins into, I went the wrong way. Center veins into our leaves. They are not perfect. They don't go the full length of the leaf. They sort of stop midway. Like so. Easy peasy. You just need a little, sort of implying that there's a center vein. It just gives the leaf a little extra texture. And these are just fun. So I'm going to dry that real quick, and then we're going to use a little bit of margarita, my favorite highlight green. Love it. Here we are. So, little bit of margarita. Don't want it full strength, just blend it out a little bit. We're going to put a float right at the edge, leading edge of that leaf, right on the end. And if you can, leave a little sliver, just a thin little sliver of the base coat showing at the bottom. Just a little sliver. It just makes these leaves look a little more shiny. It's just a fun little effect. Not necessary, but it's a fun little effect, and it does make a difference. So I leave just a little sliver. A little float out to the tip, little sliver. This is why it doesn't necessarily have to have a fully opaque base coat, because I use 3 to 4 colors over top. So there's my highlight, and then we're going to put a little float on the center vein as well. Just a little one. Doesn't have to be much. Oops, managed to get it everywhere but where I wanted it. There we go. There we go. So there's our leaves. I don't always. I like having that little sliver, especially on anything with a rounded edge, because it implies that it curls over that way. But it does give the edges of the leaves a nice little detail. It implies that the leaf curves over. I do that a lot with berries. Come in from the edge slightly, simply because it implies that there's a curve there. "24 feet in 45 minutes. We live in an area that has the highest tides in the world. And we go from ocean bottom to 29 feet in about 30 minutes. And we have sirens to let people know that if they're on the beach at that time, especially in that particular area, to get off the beach, get back up to the shoreline, because the tides can come in so quickly. We're forever fishing a tourist or two out in the summertime that ignore the siren. So there's our leaves. So now I'm going to take my liner. I'm going to take a little bit of my Joe Sonia and a little of that margarita, and I'm going to add a little bit of warm white to it, just a little. I don't necessarily want to make the paint lighter, but I want to make it a bit more opaque. And this is going to be our stems. So I'm going to stroke it right onto the leaf. And get it to thin out a little bit. Doesn't want to thin out. There we go. Oh, my script liner has seen better days, methinks. It just does not want to cooperate. There we go. Here we go. There. So I've got my stems in, little stroke. Oh my God. Okay, that was horrible. Utimus. So once we do these daisies, the only thing we really have left, yeah, it is pretty wild. We have an area down here on the Bay of Fundy. Called the Fundy Trail, and it's beautiful down there. And the area in particular is called Hopewell Rocks, and you can literally walk on the bottom of the sea. And when you take an elevator down, literally, down to the bottom of the sea from Hopewell Rocks. And when you get down there, there is a sign that tells you that the tide comes in very quickly. And when the tide is turning, they will ring a bell and let you know that it is time to head back. And then from that bell, you have 10 minutes. So you've got 10 minutes to get back to the elevator, because shortly after that, the tide will start coming in, and then it comes in very quickly. And it will go from 0 to 29 feet in a very short period of time. So you don't want to get stuck down there. So we're going to use a number 5 round and some warm white. You know me, I love my warm white. And I'm going to put a little Joe Sonias in my brush. I'm going to stroke out a lot of it. I just want the... Marion, the glaze actually has a couple of benefits. One, it helps the paint come off the brush smoother. That's one. And the second one is that it also acts as a bit of a retarder, so the paint stays wet a little bit longer in the brush. So it'll act like an extender as well. So I'm going to add a little glaze to my paint. And I'm going to start with the daisies that are furthest away from me. I asked, it's not a leak proof at all. It's literally a chain link, like a chain link fence. It's quite something to see. So we're going to start, this one down here has got a couple of petals like this. So I just wanted to get those little ones in first. These are just little, so I just want to fill them in, so to speak, around the leaves. These petals, we're going to start by stroking them in as a simple comma stroke. Just pull it back towards the center, like so. Doesn't have to be much. 1, 2, 3. Simple comma strokes. Don't overthink it. Just stroke them in. Just like that. I usually have lots in my classroom. It's habitual. The thing about using this glaze is that once you start using it, it becomes almost essential. It becomes so easy to paint, to apply stroke work, to get nice smooth base coats, etc., because you're not working against the paint. So again, it's a comma stroke. I love this. This is just the easiest way to get these daisies. Now you'll see that they don't meet the bottom. They don't come all the way to the center, and that's okay. So if you're short, if your stroke comes up a little short, it's all right, because you're going to put some shading color in there anyway. This is a number 5 Dynasty Black Gold Round. I'm glad to be back too. I do not like missing my live. I enjoy painting with you guys too much for that. So there we go. I've got it. I love this. Look at this. Super fun, super simple daisies. Don't overthink them. Just stroke them in. We're going to put some other colors in here, so don't worry. There we go. So I've got daisies. And then I'm going to take my round brush and a little bit of thinned warm white, and I'm just going to stipple a center in. Just tap a little texture in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's just enough to give us a center. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Clean out your brush. I've got quite the collection of brushes going here. So I'm going to dry that real quick. Oh, you know what? It is probably one of the most beautiful places. The scenery is spectacular. We call them the flower pots. See if I can pull up a picture. Hopewell Rocks is a huge tourist. It's a huge tourist destination. It's on the Fundy National Park. See if I can bring up a picture of it for you. So this is with the tide out. People walking on the bottom. It's quite something. And this is from the top of the thing. It's a good 30-foot drop, 40-foot drop from there. This is the caves and around the base of them. But you can see why we call them the flower pots. You get plants grow, the trees grow on top of these rock formations. And this is what they look like from a distance. And when the tide comes in, people always enjoy them. I was trying to find the shot with the kayakers. People come down and they kayak around the rocks. The caves are now underwater. But it's a beautiful spot on the Bay of Fundy. Highest tides in the world. And it's beautiful. But there's so much more to do at the Fundy Trail National Park. There's great hiking and picnicking and camping, and it is just a spectacular place. Waterfalls and the gorge, and there's so much more to see than just the rocks, but it is absolutely a spectacular place to visit. And beautiful trails. There's hiking trails everywhere to go walk, and the scenery is nothing short of spectacular. So it is quite amazing. There you go, Phyllis. You've got to go down to Hopewell Rocks. It's beautiful on the Bay of Fundy. Yeah, well, have a piece for me, Jan. So I'm going to shade our daisies with a little bit of Bahama blue. Remember the blue that we used in the glass? We're going to use that to shade our flowers. So around the center, and I try to get right up against the center, I'm going to put a float of Bahama blue. You don't have to, you can use it to separate petals if you feel it needs it. But those little open areas are going to get filled with that Bahama blue. So don't panic. It's a nice shading color. Tuck it in and around. I love Bahama blue. And we're going to deepen it with a little float of asphaltum too. Just a little. It does wonderful things for Bahama blue. Gives it a light greenish cast that works exceptionally well for daisies. So that float should come about maybe 1/3 up the petal. It's just going to give the petal a little bit of texture. And then I'm going to clean out my brush, pick up a little glaze, and a tiny bit of asphaltum. We don't need to have a ton of it in the brush. We're going to blend it out. It does not need to be strong, but we're going to put a little float of asphaltum right over that Bahama blue. Just like that. It's not a strong float. It just tones that blue a little bit, gives us a deeper shading. It's a spectacular place. So now that I've got that shading in there, we want to brighten the tips of these flowers a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white, and we're going to pull a little float of warm white just at the tips of each of those petals. Just a nice little float. All it does is just brighten the tips of the flower, so that all of those brush marks and those stria and that shading stays down towards the center. And it gives these flowers a lot more definition. Makes the tips of the petals just a little bit more opaque. And it makes them stand out nicely. I love that little highlight at the tips. It just seems to make them that much brighter. If you want them really bright and you want a higher contrast, use titanium white instead. It just brightens them a little bit, and I love that look. Little float just at the tips makes a world of difference. There we go. So look at how much brighter those flowers are. They stand out really nicely against that dark blue. So now I'm going to grab a little bit of that baby duck, and we're going to tip, tip, tip. I'm just going to stipple a little bit of baby duck in right there, right over top of that white that we put in the center. A little bit of texture to it. That's why I say stipple it. That way it doesn't look like it's just a glob of yellow in there. It has a little texture. There we go. So I'm going to dry this really well. Linda Morgan, I do the same thing. That's what I've been eating for breakfast this week. Here we go. I'm going to make sure these are good and dry because I will put my hand in it. Guaranteed. So I could take a little bit of that saffron yellow, but I want these daisies centers to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to use a little bit of tea berry. I love tea berry. And we are going to use this color elsewhere. It's not one of those colors where it's only used in one spot. I'm going to use a little tea berry at the base of that yellow. That's my shading color on the yellow. I want an orangey tone. So there we go. And wait for it. We're going to dry that. And then I'm going to pick up a little of that saffron yellow. This is going to turn our little slightly orange tone into a really bright orange tone. So there we go. We got a nice little float of saffron right over that tea berry. Turns it into a really rich orange. Layers, layers, layers. You get the best results from lots and lots of layers. So there is, look at that. We're almost there. It really pops those centers. You could put a float of orange in there. You could put a float of saffron. It wouldn't have the impact. So I use a little bit of that tea berry. That coral tone gives us a nice soft warm tone. And then pop a little of that saffron yellow over it. It makes the centers jump. Gives you nice bright centers. So I'm going to grab my rigger right there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white, and we're just going to add a few little tiny dip dots to the top edge of those centers. I like some of them to go out over the petals. Don't need a ton of them, but I find that having those tiny little dots out past the edges of the center, it just gives a little more delicacy. It makes the centers look softer, a little airy, if you will. They don't have to be perfect. They can be all different sizes. And then I'm going to do the same thing with either, you can do it with either asphaltum or you can do it with a little bit of lamp black. But we just need a few tiny little dots on the shade side. Same thing, make sure it comes off the edges. Don't need a ton of them. Just a few. I find it just keeps the center from looking flat. Now everybody's going to be rushing out to go get watermelon. I love watermelon. There we go. So look at our daisies, aren't they cute? So I'm going to dry that real quick. And I've got 2 bumblebees in the line drawing. And I thought about it the other day. You could use the laser cutouts instead, paint those to look like, you know, use the same painting technique. But honestly, you can do whatever you like. So the bumblebee, I'm going to paint his bottom, his fuzzy butt, with a coat of warm white for the same reasons that I base coated everything else, with a thin layer of warm white, because I want to eliminate the influence of that dark blue. That's all it is. So, but not only that, that thin layer of warm white keeps our bumblebees nice and bright in tone. Then I'm going to base coat the wings with warm white as well. I love me some color. I put a lot of elements in this one design. Perhaps might have overdone it, but that's okay. I like it. I like the ability to put elements in and then carry the color from one element to the next. In this case, I carried the colors from the lemonade and the daisies into the bumblebees. And in the straw, I carried the color from the watermelon. So I just used that very basic color palette and just moved the colors around. And put them in, and the same with the lettering. The idea of painting the word watermelon the same color as the watermelon was fine, but I have a slice of lemon here and it would have overlapped with yellow, which would have washed it out. So I thought, just for fun, I would reverse the color choices, and it worked much better. So I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black and base the body. These bumblebees are super easy to paint, by the way. There's nothing complex about them. And they are cute. They're not hyper-realistic bumblebees. Hi, Nance. That's my girl. Artistic voyeurism, that's interesting phrase. So, a little bit of lamp black. We're going to paint the body. I treat it as 2 different segments because technically that's what it is. Bumblebees have a mid-thorax and the head portion. And the same for this little guy. Again, they're not hyper-realistic. We want a fuzzy butt bumblebee. So, lamp black for the body. There we go. Oh. So, 2 little bumblebees. I call them fuzzy butt bumblebees. So there we are. Now, we used baby duck for the lemonade, and we used baby duck for the center of the daisies, so we're going to use baby duck for the body of our bumblebee. There we go. There we are. Oh my lord. Allergic to watermelon, that would bite. Oh, Janet, I'm so sorry. But I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. So, we have a fuzzy butt bumblebee. And remember the tea berry that we used in the center? We're going to use that to shade our bumblebee. So I'm going to use a little of that tea berry on that side of my bumblebee. Little float. Little float. Look at you. And I'm going to dry that real quick. And again, remember how I handled the centers? I'm going to take a float of saffron yellow over top of my tea berry. Look at that wonderful orangey yellow tone. It's perfect. Little saffron on there. Love it. And we're going to use a little bit of that Bahama blue, just like we did in the daisies. I'm going to use a little bit of that Bahama blue, and we're going to put a little bit on the wings close to the body, like so. Tiny little float, doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to do the same thing at the tip of the wing, especially those bigger ones. That little float, it just makes the wings feel a little cooler and makes them look like a brighter white. Don't forget that little float at the tip. And then for the body of the bee, on that upper thorax, we're going to use a little heavily thinned warm white. And we're going to make 2 strokes like so. Little C strokes on the body. Again, slightly in from the edge. Like that. So I'm going to bring this up to the camera so you can see it a bit clearer. Easy peasy. And then we're going to take our liner brush and thinned lamp black, and we're going to make our fuzzy butt bumblebee fuzzy. So he's got a stripe across the body, and it's just a series of tiny little lines like so. And then another bunch right at his fuzzy butt. Now these are not perfect lines. Some are longer than others, some are shorter. Just makes our bumblebee look a little fuzzy. And I like that it's not perfect. I honestly think the perfection is boring. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to put a highlight on our little bumblebee using warm white. So on the highlight side of the head, we're going to put a little stroke of white, same on his thorax, and then we're going to use just some fine lines that cut through the black on that side for a highlight. And I put the shadow on the wrong side on this guy. But that's all right. Nobody will really notice. So we're going to dry that. And then we're going to shade our little bumblebee with a little bit of asphaltum. Just like we did on everything else, we're going to put a little toner of asphaltum on the bumblebee, on the shaded side, just like so. Do the same thing to the wings, just close to the body. We just have the lettering left to do, and a few little fine details. So I'm going to dry this. Hi, Lisa. What did I use on the background of this one, Tammy? I used Deep Midnight Blue is the background color, and the stencil that I used is called Sashiko number 5. Oh, believe me, Nance, a great deal of them know. It was on tour, that's all. It went on tour, did its thing, now it's back home where it belongs. So we're going to base coat the lettering the same way we did everything else. So a little bit of heavily thinned warm white. It needs to be quite inky for this. So, when you do this lettering in the white, you want to try and get it done in one stroke, but if you can't, that's okay. I'm a firm believer that you handle lettering like you handle everything else that you paint. It's just another design element. And so if it requires doing things a couple of times, it requires doing things a couple of times. Even I don't get it right the first time, so... Do I use water in my Joe Sonia? No, I do not. I use it straight out of the bottle. No, Canadian lemonade is not really that yellow. We don't grow lemons. So. We do not grow lemons. Ta-da! Hi, Carrie. Have a great weekend, dear. So I'm literally going to paint this lettering twice. I'm going to do it once just with white, and then I'm going to do it again with the base color. And in this case, I'm going to be using Baby Duck for the watermelon, and I'm going to use Watermelon Slice for the lemonade. Yes, it's confusing, but it worked. That was the downside to this design, was the lettering snuck in behind the slice of lemon, and it would have gotten lost. Not enough contrast. So I thought it would be fun to reverse the colors for the lettering, and it works. You don't want your lettering to get lost, and you don't want the lettering to overpower any of the design elements that you've used. Yep. I use the same method, Vicky. I like to mix my all-purpose sealer with my base color. Again, because I'm lazy and I don't like doing things like 3 or 4 times. So I have always found that works really well. And then a light sand in between coats, and you get a nice uniform finish. and a nice smooth surface to paint on. So, win-win. Yano. And in case you're wondering what the name of the font is, it's called Lemonade. That is the name of this font. It's called Lemonade. So if you're looking for it, that's what you got to look for. I really like this particular font. It is great for this style. It has a nice and almost a handwritten feel to it. And it has a country feel without. Hi Karen. Yeah, I did actually. The Fabulous Fuchsia. That was part of my membership group. If you're a member, you have access to that class video. It's in the members videos if you're looking for it. So each of this lettering, we've already done the shading, so that's one thing out of the way. And then I reused the color palette again in the lettering, and I also reused some of the technique. So one of the things that I did do when I was painting the lettering, because I reversed the colors, the shading that I used for watermelon is the same shading that I used for the lemonade down here, and the shading for the word lemonade is the same shading process that I used here. So I just carry the color palette around, and it's usually just a matter of finding the best location for colors. And when it came down to it, reversing the colors for the lettering made the most sense, so that it balanced out the overall design. There we go. Almost done with this lettering. The girls are discussing allergies, food allergies in particular. I've had sensitivities to certain foods, never had a real food allergy per se, until last year, and just out of the blue suddenly can't eat anything with certain food colorants in it. I developed a nasty allergy. So I can't eat things like processed potato chips and snack foods like Doritos and things like that. I can't eat any of those anymore. I can't eat processed foods that contain certain food colorants or certain preservatives. And I'm deathly allergic to food dye. That was a new one on me. Up until then, I could eat almost anything without any issues whatsoever. Same with Advil. That was always my medication of choice for pain, headaches, etc. and I can't touch it anymore. Violently allergic to it. Put me in the hospital last year. So there we go. We've got our white base down. We're just going to make everything else so much simpler. That little undercoat makes such a difference. And you can do this with either white paint, you can use gesso if you prefer. It really doesn't matter which you choose. So I'm going to paint Lemonade first, and we're going to paint it with Watermelon Slice. I know that kind of throws people off, but so Watermelon Slice for the lemonade. Great color, Watermelon Slice, especially on this lettering because it's such a small area. We really don't have to worry too much about putting on a second coat. We're pretty good with one. The only thing we got to make sure we do is to cover up all the white. And it's a gorgeous red. Watermelon Slice is a gorgeous red. I like it for holly berries. I like it for a whole bunch of things. Candy canes. I like it for watermelon. And cherries. It makes great cherries. It's a great color. And we're going to reuse that tea berry again. And the berry cobbler for this. So I'm going to paint my lettering. And then we're going to shade all of this. I like shading the bottom of each letter with a little bit of berry cobbler. Just gives the lettering a little more dimension. That's why we shaded the background with a little Prussian blue, is to give the lettering a little elevation, to lift it up a little. And then by using the berry cobbler, it just gives each letter a little more elevation as well. So it just adds to that. Now this letter I want to be careful with because it goes in behind that lemon slice. Oh well. And just a reminder, got a great little coupon code. Happy 4th. And that runs out this weekend, so Monday is the last day. Well, actually Sunday is the last day you can use it because it runs out on Monday. It'll give you a discount of everything on the website. Plus there's some good surface sales. We're clearing out some surfaces because we've got some new coming in. Some new designs coming, and I need to make a little bit of room. So we have some new stuff coming up. And so we've got all that on sale. All of the M Square stencils are on sale. So if you're looking to stock up on those things, now is the time, because you can use the coupon code with your sale items. So now would be the ideal time to do that. I love my riggers. But what a difference having that white down makes to this watermelon slice. If I didn't have that layer of white down, it would be very dark. It would be heavily influenced. Oh, I'm allergic to a bunch of meds too. Found out the hard way I'm allergic to Advil. Found out the hard way I'm allergic to cold medication. Great color, look at that. Just a fun piece for summer. Now, watermelon is painted with the same color we used for the is the same one we used for the lemonade. I'm just laughing at the allergic to adhesive on tape. I think I really can't stand tape, band-aids, things like that. My skin crawls. I just don't like it. There we go. The poor puppy dogs, I'm glad that we didn't have we had some fireworks here on the 2nd, or on the 1st, but it wasn't too bad. The dog was fine, but the cat, Ari, was not. She doesn't like the noise, and she doesn't like wind. She's very skittish about the weather. When it gets windy, she finds a place to hide. She really doesn't like the wind. And we haven't really had a really good thunderstorm in a long time, so I'm almost afraid to see how she's going to react to a thunderstorm. We had a couple of good rumbles here the other day, but nothing major. It rained for about 5 minutes and then stopped, so it wasn't anything to worry about. We had no hail, none of that. It was noisy for a few minutes and that was it. Oh my goodness. Well, I think I was about 8 months along with my daughter and found out that I was allergic to a certain type of laundry soap. And it wasn't fun. So it was covered in head to foot with a rash because of the laundry soap. That and stress because our apartment building had a fire and it was just crazy. But yeah, I've never had any food allergies per se. I'm allergic to penicillin. I have a whole list of meds I can't take. Added 3 new ones last year, which was also unpleasant because I was already taking them when we discovered I was allergic to them. So, yeah. Codeine is a no-no. Tetracycline, penicillin, pseudoephedrine. I can't take Lyrica. I'm allergic to that. It had been prescribed for nerve pain from shingles. And I just got rid of the shingles rash and came out with a beautiful rash from the medication. So yeah. Hi, Terry. Yes, I am doing much better. Thank you very much. You guys were so sweet and so understanding last week. I appreciate you. I had so many notes and so many messages, and it was very much appreciated. I felt the love. I hate being sick, and I've probably been sick more in the last 2 years than I've been sick in my entire friggin' life. So I've had just about enough. And then wonking my back out of line was not in my plans. It's fun. You guys are going to love next Saturdays. I'm going to show you how to, have I gotten my shingle shot? I have my appointment Wednesday. Wednesday. And nobody's allowed to even whisper the word shingles around me right now. It's enough is enough is enough. Okay, so our lettering is painted. All we're going to do is a little bit of shading on our lettering to make it pop. I am in love. Oh, no, it's not the pain from the shingles. It was the pain, it's called post-herpetic neuralgia. It's a result of the shingles. It's nerve damage. Well, it's just, but yeah, post-herpetic neuralgia is what it is, and unfortunately it's permanent. It causes severe pain and headaches and a whole bunch of nastiness because, of course, I had to get the shingles on my head. I know. Nobody wants that more than me, Denise, I can promise you. T on watermelon is now crossed. Done like dinner. So I'm going to use a little bit of that. Remember that lovely purple tone that we use to shade the watermelon? I'm going to use a little bit of that at the bottom of each of these letters. Nice little float coming about 1/3 to 1/2 of the way up the letter. Doesn't need to be much more than that. Just to add a little tone to the bottom of each letter. That's all. So keep it simple. Again, don't overthink it. Nice little float. Look at that. I'm going to turn this one around because there we go. Little float on the chisel edge. It's just sometimes you've got too narrow a spot to really get that color in. So stand the brush up on the chisel edge and that'll help get that color in there. A little bit on those little lines. So we've got a nice little shadow at the bottom of each letter. And then I'm going to come in on the lettering with a little bit of that tea berry. And watch this. So I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I'm leaving a little sliver at the top. Just a little sliver. Little bit of that tea berry at the top of each letter. It just gives it a slight highlight. It's a subtle highlight. It's not an extremely bright highlight. There we go. I love the look of it. Love how that looks. And it probably doesn't show up that well on camera, but it gives it a nice, soft look. So it gives the lettering a very soft highlight. Then we're going to take our liner brush or a rigger, whatever you have on hand. It just needs to be something that is going to give you a nice fine line. Thin out some warm white, and we're going to put just a stroke of warm white on the lettering. Keep it simple. Just a little highlight. Just a little stroke. It doesn't have to be much, does not have to be perfect. But that little highlight just makes those letters look a little shiny. Super simple. That little pop on the top just makes a big difference. Oh, I take Cymbalta too, Tammy, and it works very well for me. So now we're down to just this lettering, this watermelon, and I'm going to use a little bit of that saffron yellow, just like we did on the lemonade. We're going to use that saffron yellow and do that at the base of each letter. Again, probably about the bottom third of each letter. That little bit of saffron makes a huge difference to this. It just gives it a little more life. If you need to use a smaller brush, then by all means, if you want to use a 1/4 inch, whatever is going to get it done for you, whatever is going to give you the best control is what you go with. So if you're more comfortable with a smaller brush, then by all means, use it. I'm comfortable with larger brushes, but this is, the 3/8 is probably the smallest that I go. I prefer a larger brush. I'm comfortable with it. I don't use a whole lot of teeny tiny brushes, like small 1/8 and 1/4 inch brushes, not very often. Generally, my favorites are that. Now, we're going to use a little bit of warm white to do a similar highlight to the top of each of these letters that we did to the others. So I'm using a little float of warm white at the top. Again, soft float. The color is not full strength. I just want to add a little lighter color just at the top. There we go. And then we're going, again, thin out a little bit of warm white. I'm going to dry this. And then we just have a few little finishing details. So just like we did for the lemonade, we're going to use that warm white to add that little stroke to each of the letters. Just a simple little highlight. There we go. Et voila. Here we go. Now I'm going to dry this real quick. I'm going to do all of the little finishing details to all of the things in this piece. Yeah, Linda, some people have really crazy dreams. I actually do very well on Cymbalta. It doesn't, it takes care of the nerve pain. So, finishing touches on this piece, we're going to use a black gel pen. So, I have two that I use. This is a Japanese Sakura, and this one is a Uniball Signo. Both pens are made in Japan. Yes, May's back. Both pens are made in Japan, and both pens are a .38, which means it's very, very fine. So this is where I have a little bit of fun with this. I take my black gel pen and I make squiggly, I like squiggly outlines on my petals. Just like that. They don't have to be perfect, but I like the little detail. I also like a few little lines towards the center going up the petals. Just adds a little texture to things. But again, this is entirely optional. If you prefer not to do this, you don't have to. I just like the sort of hand-drawn appearance that it gives things. It can go off the petal, it can go on the petal. I just like the detail it adds. I think the boys are getting our table ready outside for lobster tonight. This works for me. I really like this look. So that's just detailing my my little daisies on here. Sorry, got distracted again. I was looking to see. I thought I saw a question. Here we go. I just like the textures that this creates. I like my pen work around things.
Oh, we're on the scribblies.
We're on the scribblies, yep. And then I'm also going to use that black gel pen on the bumblebees and on that slice of lemon. And again, I don't want a hard line or even a solid line. I like the soft scribblies. Like so. Soft scribblies work for me.
Carolyn Spondenberg says, my lettering is awful.
Just takes a little practice, that's all.
Hey, Donna Baker.
So I'm going to put a scribbly line around the wings as well on our little bumblebee. Don't forget to put a few little things on there. Same around the fuzzy butt. He needs a fuzzy butt, lots of dip dots, texture.
Tracy makes it look so easy.
Oh, I'm glad I make it look easy.
Yeah.
No one would want to paint it if I made it look hard.
I was going to say.
Yep. We're going to be doing a piece next week that's involving some textures and stencils, and you're really going to love it because it involves a little bit of lettering that's going to be part of our background. I'm going to show you two ways to do it. You can do it with stencil or you can do it by hand, but we're going to have some fun with that. And there we have it. So like I said, you can do all of these little pencil details. You can add as much or as little you want, or you can not do it at all if that's what you prefer. So to finish this piece, we're going to erase any graphite lines. I'm going to make sure everything is good and dry. And then we're going to give it a light spatter with a little bit of thinned warm white. And while I'm doing that, Renee is going to load up the wheel. So, I'm going to grab my favorite fugly brush and a little bit of thinned warm white. I like warm white for this. I think it just keeps it nice and cool looking. Doesn't overpower it. So, I'm just going to lightly spatter with a little bit of thinned warm white. I love a little spatter. I just think it just brings something, adds texture and interest without overpowering it. There we go. Love it. Now, if you want to, you can spatter this with a little bit of asphaltum, or you can spatter it with a little bit of lamp black if you like more and heavier spatter, if you want a more distressed look. But I'm kind of partial. I like just that little bit of white. I think it just softens things nicely and it makes for a fun piece. Now to finish this one off, I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. So to finish this one off, you can give it 1 or 2 light coats of Decor matte spray. I went a little hog wild afterwards, and I went and did this sort of chippy paint look around the outside edges. Really simple to do. So you can do something like that. You could use a stamp pad on the edge of it. There's all kinds of nifty ways that you can add a few details to this piece, but honestly, I don't think it needs them. This is such a fun piece to do, I think. I like that more patriotic type color palette with the red, the blue, and the white, and then that flash of yellow. I just think it's a fun piece to do. Perfect to mark 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. So, it's a fun one. What's the matter?
Oh, I got bug bite.
I get bug bite. Oh, that's a bad place to get one.
Right between the fingers.
Okay, so we have a wheel. Is
Yeah,
it
it does.
loaded up?
Oh, it's loaded. It is.
You got a bunch of names on there. Holy hockey pucks, Batman. That is something. Wow. How many names are on there? It's over 200. I think. That's a lot of names.
Yep.
Okay.
You gonna press the button for the wheel?
I am. That would be helpful,
Hopefully
wouldn't
it works.
Prize time? Ta-da!
Nope.
No? This is a fun one. So, again, I'm going to just quickly recap. We have 3 giveaways for today. Inside each of those giveaways is a Create bag. In the Create bag are some fun little creative toys for you. Plus, we have a really pretty stencil for you that is separate from your Create bag. And we have a nice little 3-brush set of Dynasty Water Lily brushes. So there's 3 of those in there, and as well as some other fun stuff. We fill her up with a bunch of goodies. So, oh, there's a pin kit in there. We have a pin kit in there too. So, if you are ready, body is crossed, spin.
Oh, where'd they go? Oh, there. This one. You got this one.
Yep.
Who's this?
Rory Morgan.
Rory Morgan.
What was it? And number 2 goes to...
They can see the name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I had to double check.
Just to be on the safe side. They should be able to see it.
Boop.
And this one goes to Marianne Hughes. Just to reiterate, you guys, if you see your name pop up on the wheel, all you have to do is just hop over to the website at tracymoreau.net, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and send us your shipping information so we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible.
Yay.
And number 3.
A lot of new names on this wheel.
There's a whole bunch of big new names on here. Diane Hendricks. Don't worry, Diane, I know where you live. That sounded remotely threatening, didn't it?
Very ominous.
Ominous indeed.
Wait, is that?
Yes, Diane Hendricks. Our Diane Hendricks, yes.
Redhead?
No, not
No?
that Diane Hendricks.
Oh, little Diane.
No, not that one either.
No?
No, this is California Diane.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh,
I have a lot of Diane friends.
Apparently.
Apparently, yes.
What happened to the princess?
The princess.
Not
We
that
don't.
Diane.
We don't. No, we don't talk about that, Diane.
Ah.
Makes everybody weepy. No. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. I really missed being here with you guys last week. Really missed it. I dislike not being in my studio. It's my favorite place in the world, next to my kitchen. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed this piece. It was a lot of fun to design. It was even more fun to paint 4 times. 4 times now. Next Saturday, we're going to be working with texture mediums. We're going to be working with stencils. We're going to be working with a very simple floral. Very simple. We're going to work on a very dramatic cast shadow, so be ready for that one. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to have some really interesting techniques to share with you next week. So, pattern will be up Monday. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I'm excited for something completely different.
You're going to have a feed lobster in about an hour.
I'm hoping it's a lobster roll.
It might be.
It might be.
Might be.
Lobster roll?
Lobster roll could be tomorrow. But no, we'll make you a lobster roll. Everybody, thanks for joining us again today. We appreciate you so much. Everybody have a fantastic 4th of July weekend if you're in the States. If you're Canadian, enjoy the beautiful weather and hopefully it's not too hot. And we will see you again soon. Mwah. Love you. Stay safe.
You pet your dog.
And pet your dog.